Good morning, Team Alabama. We are ready for page 196 and we're on the last several pages of the book. You should be finished with your facts. If not, there's a timeline at the very end. You could use that timeline to help you finish your facts. And we're going to start with the first sentence at the top of page 196. While the astronauts continued their 238,000-mile journey to the moon, Katherine Johnson had just finished a much shorter trip. She and about 100 of her sorority sisters had come to a quiet hotel in the Pennsylvania mountains for a weekend retreat. Even there, however, everyone was eager for news of the historic voyage. The other women crowded around the hotel's small black and white television, listening to the news anchors and watching the screen as the astronauts glided closer and closer to their destination. The moon mission was so complex that it had taken more than 400,000 people working as a team to send the spacecraft safely on its way. Since the early 1960s, when President Kennedy announced that he wanted America to land a person on the moon, Katherine Johnson had worked hard on the analysis that had eventually made this day possible. She had given years of hard work to NASA and its mission, but the hardest part might have been to sit watching the astronauts moving away from Earth through the cold vacuum of space bound for the moon. She knew there was no way that she would be able to relax until the astronauts had landed on the moon and returned safely back to Earth. Even with 26 manned flights under NASA's belt, this was different and everyone knew it. Katherine Johnson watched the television. The Eagle, the lunar lander, the crab-like mechanical contraption carrying astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, emerged from the Apollo command module and descended to the surface of the moon. At 10:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on July the 20th, 1969, humankind set foot for the first time in history on a heavenly body other than Earth. Astronaut Neil Armstrong climbed down a ladder and stepped onto the moon. "That's one small step for a man," he said, "and one giant leap for mankind." The actual landing had been one part of the mission that had been impossible to rehearse and the most dangerous. The Apollo 11 astronauts had given the mission only a so-so chance of success. Neil Armstrong thought they had a 50-50 chance of landing on the moon on the first try. Katherine Johnson had confidence. She knew her numbers were right. She always expected the best. "You have to expect progress to be made," she said. Timing was everything. After the moonwalk, Katherine knew the astronauts had a brief window to get back into the lunar lander and reconnect with the mothership above. Then they had 3 long days on the highway back to Earth, followed by a journey through the fire of the atmosphere and down to the ocean below. She knew she would hold her breath until the space pioneers had been lifted from the ocean by the waiting Navy ships. But the mission was a success. From beginning to end, takeoff to splashdown, the astronauts had returned to their home on Earth safely. Katherine enjoyed a bit of ease, but only for a moment. NASA still had 6 more Apollo missions planned, and there was always the thrill of the next discovery. Now that NASA had successfully landed astronauts on the moon, Katherine and some of her co-workers had talked about a mission to Mars. Others dreamed about going even further away from Earth, embarked on a grand tour that would send a spacecraft hopping from Mars to Jupiter to Saturn like a stone skipped across a glassy lake. It wouldn't be easy, but the nimble minds at Langley could make it a reality, Katherine thought. Why should flying a person to Mars be any less achievable than sending a man into orbit around Earth or landing a man on the moon? One thing built on the next. Katherine Johnson knew once you took the first step, anything was possible. Okay, guys, so that's the end of Hidden Figures. And what they've done next is give you a timeline of everything that occurred. And starting in about 1861 to 1865 was the Civil War, then the Emancipation Proclamation in 63. And they give you a kind of a historical timeline here of everything that happened. If you're looking for your vocabulary, in the back of the book, there's the glossary. And the glossary gives you words and their definitions. So those would be easy places to get words and definitions. Okay? If you have any questions, as always, please email us. Your 50 facts are now due, and your 10 questions and your 10 vocabulary. The next book we will start is 42. Have a great rest of your day, Team Alabama.